Hello, my name is Michael Healy, and I would like to make this first of what will hopefully be a series of videos discussing the spiritual life. And for this first video, I would like to discuss a spiritual writer who's perhaps not as well known as he deserves to be, John Cassian. Specifically, I would like to discuss John Cassian's 7th spiritual conference. Now, Cassian was a monk who lived in the 5th century, well, late 4th and early 5th centuries. And he might have been born in the Ukraine, we're not exactly sure. What we do know is he went to Palestine, and then to Egypt, and then to France. And the spiritual conferences are his memoirs of some discussions he had with the monks in Egypt. And the 7th conference in particular is about spiritual warfare. But he has an interesting perspective on it that I don't think I've heard anywhere else. I'm just going to single out a page or two, but I'd like to read a bit of it and then comment on it. So, the monk's name is Serenos, and he says in response to a question from Cassian's traveling companion, Germanus, "Among the wicked, it is certain that there is no enduring agreement in all of them, nor can perfect harmony exist even with respect to the very vices in which they take common delight. For as you said, discipline and measure can never be observed in undisciplined things. Yet in some instances, when a joint endeavor or necessity demands it, or partnership in some gain encourages it, they have to come together in a temporary accord. We see very clearly that in the army of evil spirits, they not only maintain times and alternations among themselves, but are even known to haunt particular spots and to occupy them constantly. For since it is necessary for them to carry out their attacks by means of set trials, through particular vices, and at particular times, it is evident to us that no one can simultaneously be led astray by the emptiness of vainglory and be inflamed by the lust of fornication, nor can he at the same time be puffed up by the swelling haughtiness of spiritual pride and fall into the humiliation of carnal gluttony. Neither can a person both break into foolish cackling and laughter and be provoked by the urges of anger. And even less can he be preoccupied by the bitterness of consuming sadness. Rather, a spirit must set out by itself to attack the mind in such a way that if it departs vanquished, it gives it over to another spirit to be attacked more vehemently. But even if it is victorious, it still hands it over to another to be similarly deceived." So this is his first point, that the evil spirits all seem to have their own specialties and don't always get along with each other, but sometimes cooperate against us. But that's in preparation to the next point. We should also by no means be unaware of the fact that not all have the same ferocity and desire, nor indeed the same courage and weakness. With beginners and the weak, only the weaker spirits are paired off in battle. And once these evil spirits have been overcome, ever more robust contenders take up the fight against the athlete of Christ. For the difficulty of the struggle increases in direct proportion to a person's strength and progress. Indeed, a holy person would never be able to bear the wickedness of such great enemies and to face their onslaughts, but would succumb to their cruelty and savagery, were it not for the fact that Christ, the most merciful arbiter and the overseer who presides over our struggle, balances out the strength of the contestants, repels and restrains their fierce attacks, and with the trial provides a way out so that we are able to endure. So that's the next point, that God makes sure that we are only attacked by demons equal to our strength in Christ. That when we're still weak, when we're still not advanced in spiritual warfare, not very experienced in fighting and resisting temptations, God sends only the weaker demons to tempt us. And as time goes on, He allows, and we become more exercised in the spiritual life, He sends more powerful demons to attack us. But the next part here is what I really want to key in on, because I think this, better than anything, illuminates our role in God's plan of salvation. We do not believe, however, that they, that is the demons, we do not believe, however, that they engage in this struggle without any effort of their own. For they themselves also have a certain anxiety and sadness in the conflict, especially when they meet with stronger rivals, that is, with holy and perfect men. Otherwise, no conflict or struggle, but only a simple and, as I might say, safe deception of human beings would fall to their lot. How then would the apostle say, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the world rulers of this darkness, against spirits of evil in heavenly places. And also, I do not fight as one beating against the air. And again, I have fought the good fight. For when a fight and a contest and a battle are spoken of, there is inevitably toil and effort and anxiety on both sides. And grief and distress awaits one of them after defeat, while joy follows upon victory. But when one leisurely and safely fights another who is struggling laboriously, and the former uses his will as his only weapon to defeat his opponent, this should not be called a battle or a struggle or a contest, but a kind of unfair and unreasonable travesty of a match. But clearly, in attacking the race of human beings, they labor and toil as much as we do in order to be able to seize the victory that they desire over someone. And the distress which was awaiting us if we had been overcome by them will be turned back on them, according to the words, "The head of their encircling, the labor of their own lips shall cover them over, and his sorrow shall be turned upon his own head." And again, "The snare that he does not know of shall come to him, and let the net that he hid seize him, and let him fall into that very snare," namely the one who pursues the deception of human beings. "They themselves grieve no less than we. And in the manner that they overcome us, they themselves are similarly overcome, and once defeated, depart in disgrace." Now this is fascinating, and it's something that far too many people in our culture today ignore, especially atheists and critics of Christianity. But even many Christians ignore this point. Some Christians use the devil as a bugbear to frighten people into good behavior, and other people are so afraid of the devil being used as a bugbear that they dismiss the belief that demons exist as mythological. But that's not authentic Christianity. Using the devil as a bugbear is not authentic Christianity. Cassian's point is that the demons are not all wise and all powerful like God. They don't know what's going to happen when they tempt us. And they have to expend effort to tempt us. They get worn out by the struggle just like we do. And if we overcome the temptation, they get filled with doubt and distress and self-accusation just like we do if we succumb to the temptation. By the power of Christ, in other words, we really do gain a victory over Satan. In the same way that a soldier on a battlefield defeats another soldier, or an athlete in a sporting event defeats another athlete. We really do defeat Satan. And Satan becomes enchained by the self-doubt and self-recrimination. Just imagine it. Suppose Satan tries to tempt you to pride and you maintain your humility. Satan is left wondering, how did this happen? What did I do wrong? This temptation always worked before. Why didn't it work this time? How could I be so stupid to fail to convince Michael to sin? That's what Satan's thinking when you successfully conquer a temptation. And so, but this is not supposed to happen. We're mere mortals. Satan, before his rebellion against God, was the highest of the archangels, the highest of all the angels, the highest of the seraphim. And he's supposed to be able to sweep the floor with us, according to the order of nature. But when we've been empowered by God's grace to conquer temptations, suddenly we, the muck of the earth in his eyes, are capable of defeating him. And this is the chain that will bind Satan for all eternity. Not a physical chain, but the spiritual chains of self-doubt and self-recrimination as a result of his failure to tempt God's saints and drag them down to hell. I first read that passage 10 or 11 years ago, and it made such an impression on me. And I get excited about it. And I wanted to be able to share that with a broader audience. Because I think it's important for all Christians to remember, we're soldiers of Christ in a spiritual struggle against the demons, and we can defeat them. Thank you.